Good evening. My name is Tyrone Gethers Jr. Oh, the echo out. It's Tyrone Gethers Jr. I'm your host of the Source of the Inkwell live on KUAW, Knowledge, Understanding, and Wisdom. We are Kansas City's fastest growing community radio station. We are the station that has a pulse on the community. So if you want to know what's going on in your community, KUAW is the spot to look for. You can hit us up on a number of ways. You can get us at 816-599-6893 if you want to call in and interact with me. You can also check us out on the following: Facebook, KUAW, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube. I know I'm missing one. Oh, TuneIn Radio, and of course, KUAW.org. And on all those platforms, type in KUAW Radio, and we'll pop right up. And on most of those platforms, you can actually see and interact with us as well, too. You can also see how handsome I am live on the air. It's not HD, it's TG. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Yes, to give me some light, huh? So with saying that, I'm going to come at you from a perspective that I'm kind of close to, and that is, well, education. I am a full-time educator by trade, but my main job has been a black man on this planet, in this country. So when you merge those two things together, you have a black male educator. And with being a black male educator, we have a different perspective of how education should look, not only for children, but for our children as well. And if we look at the whole educational scope, for years, black males have been underrepresented in pre-K through 12 curriculum, classrooms. What that means is you don't see many of us in classroom settings. I've had students come to me and say, well, you know, it's my 8th grade year. You're the first black male teacher I've ever seen inside of a school building, period, and that's sad. So we're saying that black males, we have a way of diversifying schools and classrooms, not only in our districts, but in our nation as well, too. So being a black male student can benefit from having a black male teacher with research that shows that if a black male student has a black male teacher, that those dropout rates tend to lower and those disciplinary issues tend to lessen as well too, as well as having a more positive aspect of schooling and test scores. Now that not only affects black male students, but it also affects all students too, because having black male teachers actually enhances your behavior, your attendance, your retention, and it also increases the academics of your students. And that's what you want, because having black voices in your schools actually adds that diverse and inclusive workforce within pre-K through 12 education. Now, you're probably saying, well, Tyrone, why are you not focusing more on, post-secondary? Well, on the college level, you see a lot of teachers of color, depending on where you go. But the thing is, on the grassroots, on the building blocks, you don't see teachers who look like me building up our students. Now, I have a lot of friends and associates and relatives who go to HBCUs, and they say, hey, going to an HBCU really just blew my mind. And there are people who say, well, I learned so much in HBCU that I didn't learn about myself going to predominantly white schools. And it's crazy that African Americans don't learn more about themselves until they're adults, and that's a problem. See, everyone else is learning who they are because their culture is being intertwined in school. Us, we get a bastardized version of our culture in these school systems. Therefore, when we go to post-secondary, depending on what school we go to, we finally learn who we are, either by circumstance or by happenstance. So I'm going to go through and talk about how we can, what the benefit is of having more diverse voices and more people who look like me in the classroom settings to make it look, more diverse. And I know I touch upon having black men in classrooms frequently, but I'm going to keep talking about the importance of having black males in the classroom until I start seeing more black males in the classroom. Because, of course, you're going to say, well, why don't they just apply? Well, we are applying. Here's the thing, though. Black males are needed, but they're not necessarily wanted in school systems. So it's one thing to say, yeah, we have black males here. What are you doing to keep black males in your building? Now, in my school setting where I teach, there's only 2. I take that back. It's 3. Yeah, it's 3 now. And you might say, yeah, applause, that's good. But, I mean, if we had more, so much more would make a difference. Now, I was actually fortunate to coach alongside one and teach alongside of another. And I've noticed when I coached alongside of one and especially taught alongside the one of another, it was so much we did in that classroom setting. So I'm going to go through and continue on with my show because I can give these brothers accolades for days. Matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and do that too, man. Shout out to Donnell Fletcher and also our football coach as well, who really puts it down in our classroom. So, shout outs to y'all. I'll go ahead and get my notes up. All right, so black men are needed in our school system. And that's just how it is. We need to be there because representation matters. And we hear that over and over and over and over again. But what does that look like? Well, first off, having black males in the classroom, it provides an opportunity for black men to enter into the ranks of the most important and influential profession on the planet. Now, note, teaching is the most influential and the most important profession, but it's not the most respected. Probably because, well, one, you're going to say the lack of pay, but I'm also going to add in there that the teaching profession is probably the hub of the most institutionalized racism on the planet as well, too. So you kind of got a paradox. And if you put more of us in there, more teachers of color, primarily African-American teachers, male teachers, it might be the enema that the profession needs to push out all of the nonsense that does not need to be in there. There's a lot of sickness in our profession. And I know for a fact, if you put more African-American males in there and you're utilizing them and promoting them and listening to them, that's the main thing. A lot of the nonsense that's poisoning the body of education will be eliminated from this profound body. And the things that are going to be eliminated is, of course, the institutionalized racism, the glass ceiling that only most of us can only go so far up, the ignoring, the low retention. And I can keep going and going and going. Now, people will say, well, Tyrone, you should be a principal by now. Well, I look at it like this. And I'm not taking credit. I'm sorry. I'm not discrediting anyone who wants to go into higher administration. But, a lot of us, we need to stop rushing to get into the classroom, to get out of the classroom. I say that again. We need to stop rushing to get into the classroom, to get out of the classroom. And what that looks like is you got people who are quick to be a teacher, but only to be an administrator. A lot of us, yeah, we do need black administrators, but we need a whole lot of black teachers too, because they need us in the classroom. And if I had my way, if I was to ever be an administrator, I got to be an administrator that has to be still in the classroom. And I was actually able to sit down and talk with the superintendent, and I told her that philosophy, and she said, you know what, I could use someone like you in my district because I want my administrators to not be afraid to go back in the classroom. For the most part, you have school districts that when it comes to black administrators or administrators in general, they forget where they come from. Because, you can't be a general and forget how it was like to be on the front line. And you see that a lot. And also, I've actually worked in school districts that they claim they build up black administrators, but they really don't. It looks good on paper, but it doesn't look good in actuality. Because let's be real here. You're a black male teacher. A black male educator, a black male administrator leading a building full of white teachers. I've seen black female administrators struggle with districts full of black teachers. I'm getting all mixed up because someone's interrupting me when I'm on the air. Someone's calling me on my phone. I don't like being interrupted. So you have black female administrators who struggle with with buildings full of white teachers. And I mean, we have an issue where we have white teachers who are they are foreign to black leadership. And sometimes we are foreign to things, we tend to fear that. And if we tend to fear that, it grows to hating that. And then you start messing with this administrator while they're trying to do their job. I mean, I see it daily, and it's sad. Kind of like when Obama took over as president of the United States, everyone was like, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. We could talk about it, but we shouldn't do it. You know, your true colors really come out in your classrooms. Black male teachers also provide an opportunity for black men to take significant roles in the lives of black children. I mean, Malcolm said it. We let our enemy teach our kids. And the enemy can be anybody who you think it can be. But primarily, I mean, like, I've worked in districts that don't celebrate black history. I work in areas where they don't celebrate children's culture. Now, last time I checked, there's more to American culture than just what you see in the history books. And we all know that the history books is predominantly a white male lens, a white straight male lens, and that's not America. I'm sorry, the United States of America. It's not. It's not our country. It's their country. So when you have teachers who come in the profession, they can tell these kids, hey, look, hey, I've been where you're from. Because think about this. Look at your genetic makeup of your school building. The majority of your kids who are in enriched are white female, probably one or two white males, and probably one black female, if that. You don't see any black males in there. Of course, you say, well, yeah, but most of them are either biracial or light-skinned. You don't see kids darker than me in enriched classes. You don't. Look at your special ed classes. You see a lot of kids who are African-American and male who are in those classes. And those who are highly suspended are black males. It's across the board. It's like it's in our DNA to vilify black males. So if you have a black male in that classroom, they can advocate for these kids. Nah, I got this kid. But keep in mind, advocate does not mean this black male teacher is supposed to take care of all your behavior issues. It's not my job to police your classroom because you can't connect or you won't connect to a black student. No, not gonna happen. And in the words of one of my friends, Jason Green, ain't gonna happen, honey. Ain't gonna happen. And yeah, I said ain't, but that's how it goes. You know, you get a knock on your door and you got all these little black boys. Hey, can you help me deal with? No, you deal with that. You deal with that behavior issue. My job is to make sure you're being fair with it. You're being equitable with it. Let's see, here we go. Black male teaching provides an opportunity for black men to have access to countless number of black children over the years and decades. Now, I have a student, Mark Bryant, and if Mark is listening, when I looked at Mark, this kid was like an adolescent version of me. I mean, he walked up in there, you know, quoting Malcolm. I mean, living for the culture. I mean, donning the gear and actually knew what he was wearing. And he actually peeped the BS. And I look at this kid, and like at first he and I was like, boom, we clashed. And I'm like, wow, man, we're clashing because we're so much alike. It was like looking in a mirror at me as a child and him looking in a mirror and seeing him as an adult. And this kid really taught me a lot as an educator. And I'm sure, I mean, 'cause he keeps saying I taught him a lot too, but he taught me a lot also. But I say all that to say that, you know, I had a lot of Mark Bryants coming through. I've been teaching for 20 years. You know, August the 13th is my 20th year teaching. I know I may not look it, but that's like a big deal to me. I'm going on year 20. And think about how many black students I've affected in 20 years. I get it all the time. I'm out walking. I'm like, wow, you know, boom, you affected me. Boom, you did this for me. I'm teaching. And I'm like, no, man, no, sister, you didn't do that. I mean, you did that for me. I mean, you did so much for me. I mean, seeing that you crossed that stage, you got your own family, you got your own business. I got a cousin right now. And I don't mean to throw her business out, but, you know, it's a blessing. they say teachers aren't supposed to have favorite students. I mean, every now and then you might get a couple, but my kids would never tell you, like, who my favorite is, but I did tell one particular student. This kid was one of my first students teaching, and he ended up marrying my cousin like last year. And I'm like, wow, one of my favorite students married one of my favorite cousins. And that's dope because this kid actually knows what it's like to be in my family now. Because in my classroom, I lead my classroom as if it is a family. And this kid can actually tell you, oh, I know exactly what it's like being in this man's family. And it's a huge deal to me to actually say that because coming up, I actually was able to imprint. No, I didn't say impact, but imprint is more permanent. What it was like to be me, what it was like to be black, what it was like to be of African descent, however you want to see it, because we all come from that beautiful motherland, or how it was like to be us in this system. And when kids see that, they get a deeper respect. Now, I'm going to say something too that's kind of edgy. My students have actually witnessed me be discriminated against. And when they see that, it's like, whoa, it affects him too. And I also pull back the veil on how they're being discriminated against as students in this system. I mean, I've done a lot of things with my students. I've actually mentored them on activism. I've actually showed them that, hey, there's another level of activism. You can transcend to being a revolutionary, and that's putting more knowledge in your brains. I've assisted students with actually confronting the inequality of their classroom and of their school systems. So I've done all that in my 20s of teaching. If I have any students who are former students who are actually watching this broadcast, please chime in because you know how it is. And with having more black male teachers, you will see more of that. And people like to think that, educating is a good thing, but then you have people thinking, well, if you educate the right thing, it's dangerous. Be dangerous, black male teachers. Continue to educate these students on what is not being taught and what needs to be known. Because I always tell teachers all the time, you're doing your job right when you get in trouble for educating the right thing. That's real talk of some change. All right. And I've 20 years I've been doing that, and I'm not going to stop. Having black male teachers gives an opportunity for black men to be positive role models for for students. Now, Westport Middle School. I will say Westport Middle School in the year when I first started teaching, 2003, by far was probably the coldest staff I've ever taught with. I mean, you had heavyweights up in there. You had Mary McKeel. You had Louis Neal, Miss Aquilina Perry, Janet Reginald, Gina Mercer, Elvin Mosley, Sharon Ford Parker. Man, it keeps going, man. Miss Jerry Kennedy, Mr. Cloud. Although his man was white, Mr. Wildire. Chuck, man, he was a man when it came to teaching black students. He actually has a heart for black kids. Now, I respect that man for that. You have Mr. Russell, Miss Wendy Barnes. I'm just, and then eventually when we became district, you had Mr. Daryl Davis. I'm just, and I know I'm missing a lot of names, but this group was a family, and they were all about being positive role models. And I know it says being positive role models for black students, black male students, but those women I've named were strong positive role models for our black female students. And we had this was shortly after when we were all kind of transitioning out of the school, we had a talent show. And this talent show, it was kind of crazy because we had some rappers come in. Nothing wrong with that. I have no problem with anybody rapping. But these rappers came in, and these kids were rushing the stage, really plugging in to these rappers. And there was a brother I used to teach with. He's an art teacher, Jermaine Hill. I'm never going to forget this. He said, it's sad that these kids don't know the role models that they see with us. And I said, you right. You right. See, being a black educator, period, you're showing your students, you're showing students in general that we are beyond BET. BET stands for Black Entertainment Television. That's a lie. Excuse me. BET stands. No, I don't have COVID. I'm in the WB Du Bois Learning Center, and they're really updating the building. They're getting it all fixed up for the new big reveal. So they're doing like a lot of sanding and painting. So I'm kind of inhaling some of the fumes. So I'm not scratching my throat because I have COVID. But personally, I feel that BET stands for Black Extermination Television, because there's nothing really on there for real that's educating us. It's not. It's not entertaining us. It's horrible. When that man when the who was the founder of BET, Mr. Walker? You remember the founder of BET? Was it Jack? His name Johnson? Last name, I believe it was. Yeah. Well, he sold BET to Viacom, and when he did that, it just screwed it all up. I mean, it was the pejorative term was utilized. And when you have black male teachers, black female teachers, those kids see, wow, I can be an intellectual. There was a TV show I used to love when I was a kid, still do. A Different World. A Different World. You had all of these black men and women who were just intellectuals all on the TV. Loved it. There were a lot of guys I ran after when I was a kid, when I was at Palestine Missionary Baptist Church. Greg Wills, top of the list. This man, every time he did something, I felt I could do it too. Greg graduated high school. I said, shoot, I'm going to graduate high school. Greg graduated college, undergrad. I'm going to graduate undergrad. Greg graduated, got his master's. He kept pushing. I mean, he was my role model. Everything Greg did, I did. Same for C.B. Cadenhead, DeAndre Hawkins, Desmond Jones, Leonard Butler, Daniel Walker, all those brothers. I didn't have older brothers coming up, so I always ran behind those guys. James Watkins, Reverend James Watkins. So my mother would always tell them, hey, look out for my son. And of course, they were the older brothers. They had fun, with me cracking jokes, but they also showed me how to handle business too. So whenever we would go out and do fun things, they showed me how to handle my business in the classroom too. And my mom did a real good job with that, putting me in line with those cats, because all of them are very successful in regards to what they do. And none of them were rappers. Like I said, I'm not knocking the rappers and the athletes, but like all of them, Desmond's a well-known poet here in the city, but they were athletes, they were poets, they were writers, and they did all that stuff, and they showed me you can still be cool and be intellectuals. So like whenever I was in church, I would always make sure I would plug into them and kind of get their insight on things. So I mean, I was like a little goofy, geeky little brother, but I mean at the same time, I wanted to be like them. And how they were with me is how I am in the classroom with our students. I want them to see being black and educated is cool. It's not a knock. It's not a geeky thing. It's not a nerdy thing. Go out there and get all A's. You can be a star athlete and a star student. You can do that. It's okay. You don't have to choose. You can do the whole thing. You can do the whole yay. It's cool. I can do a whole show on those cats. I mean, real talk. I mean, I owe a lot to them in regards to, shaping me and putting me in that right direction. All right, let's see. And of course, it kind of goes into it too as well, is that having black male teachers, we provide examples of manhood for black boys too. Now, I know myself, Coach Harrison, and Coach Fletcher at Raytown Middle School, we are all black men, and we're also black fathers too. And being black fathers and being black teachers is an added bonus, because they see how we are with our kids, and we actually transcend that with our kids too. With our students. So with saying that, with being a black male teacher and a father, we tend to have that more paternal approach with our kids too. And of course, I'm not saying that fatherhood is better than manhood. I'm saying fatherhood is an extension of manhood, and kids need to see that. Okay, let's see. How am I doing on time? Cool. All right. Teaching also, having black male teachers also provides an opportunity for black men to be a presence in the lives of black boys that they can relate to and identify with. Now, we have a lot of people in the community, black community, who feel that taking my kid out of the inner city or out of the hood and putting them in predominantly white schools would give my kid a better education. I mean, that's a yes and no. I mean, like, I'm in the Kansas City, like inside the Kansas City, Missouri School District, you can get an excellent education here. It's not about where you go, it's about who's teaching you. In my 20 years, I've taught all over the city. I've taught rural. I haven't taught rural yet, but I've taught rural kids. But I've taught suburban, I've taught urban, I've taught private. I've taught students who were like ELL. I mean, I've taught it all except for the exception of rural. Well, in a rural setting, but I've taught rural students. So I've kind of been across the board. And it's not where your kids are being taught, it's who's teaching your kids. I mean, I know parents who have their kids in some like the whitest of white schools, and their kids are not getting a good education because there's no one to identify with their kids. And with the identifying of your kids, it's like being able to have that connection. It's being able to see those kids have someone who looks like them to mentor them, to give them that sense of, oh yeah, that's someone I can go to. That's someone I can instantly connect with. Because when I was coming up, I had Mr. Naves, Mr. Bill Naves. And when you saw Mr. Naves, instant connection. I got in trouble one time. And my dad told me, he said, boy, you keep messing up, I'm going to send you to a military school. Man, of course, I kind of blew it off as kids do. And one time I had a meeting, and Mr. Naves came down and got me. And he said, look, doctor, I decided to come down and get you because, your dad's here. He's having a meeting with me and all your teachers, and he requested your presence. He said, so you think you're going to take you to military school? Now, Mr. Naves knew everything about my behavior because he was also a church member too. And I just broke down in fear, and Mr. Naves pretty much told me, I got you. I'll be there with you. And there was a real rough meeting because I was messing up. Yeah, I was a class clown. I was showing my natural brown tail, But of course, if we wasn't on a family broadcast, I'd probably say another word, but I was showing it. And the whole time in there, my dad was hot. And he had every right to be mad because I was misrepresenting. And the whole time, Mr. Naves was sitting right there. And he looked at me like, it'll be all right. It'll be okay. And the whole time, Mr. Naves was right. And after that meeting, Mr. Naves was the individual I had to connect with to make sure I had a successful school year. And I was thankful for that man being there because if Mr. Naves wasn't there, and of course Mr. Trantham, Mr. Trantham was a new teacher. He's a white male, but he took a vested interest in me as well. Without those two men, I would have been in a lot of more trouble at being a middle school. KCPS, may it rest in peace, because it's no longer there. I would have been in a lot of trouble. I would have been in a military school, sure enough. Cause my bag is pretty much packed. But those two teachers stepped up and said that they would step in and be like, look, we got him. And also Miss Jamie Braden, too, a black female teacher. If I didn't have those teachers there, it would have been an issue. And they didn't do that just for me, but for a lot of kids who were African American. And we need that. Now, I'm going to say this. Now, I'm not going to, you know what? I can go ahead and name the district. Belton School District. A lot of African Americans love moving out south or to Belton, to Raymore, or out east to your Lee Summits and your Blue Springs, or out west to your Overland Parks, Olathe, and Shawnee Missions, you know, or up north to your Staley and North Kansas City. Nothing wrong with that. But this teacher told me, and it haunts me every time I think about it. There was a black kid, she said, and she felt so comfortable telling me this. Now, I almost said one of them words. Telling me this. She said it was a black kid running around, you know, having a good time with his white friends. Nothing wrong with that. But she pulled this black kid aside and said, hey, you need to learn how the white man's world is and act accordingly. I said, dang, you told that boy that? He said, yeah, because he can't walk around acting like that. And it just messed me up that when she said that to me, it's just the fact. I mean, of course, I mean, should the kid learn how to govern himself in a setting like that? Yes, but the way she said it, the way she sent out that package was messed up. And I sat there and thought about that kid like, dang, man, you really messed this kid up. I mean, like the way, because like she said, and then she said, yeah, it had him acting right then. And I'm like, wow. I said, man, you messed up. And I'm so glad I'm not teaching with you no more. That's crazy. And I know if she said that, how many other teachers in that building or in that district felt like that. And I would call her out by name. You know what? I do this. If I see a comment scroll across saying call her out by name, I call her out by name, and I tell you what school she's in too. So if your kid's out there, you got something to look for. I'm gonna keep it real. So she's that messed me up when she said that mess. But like, you know, you have people out there that really put poison in your kids' minds, or they say things to hurt our students. We got anybody comment, Mr. Walker? Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. So if you want to know the name of this teacher who hauled off and said this messed up stuff to this kid, the chat line is open. And if you're watching this video on delay, please post in the comments. I will blast this teacher all on social media because this stuff needs to be exposed. I already exposed the district, but I want to expose the teacher too. So, hey, if you want it, I'll give it to you. So, it's very important that kids have someone to look at as a representation of who they are and whose they are too. Because parents, black parents, when you take your kids out of their culture, out of their community, and put them in a community that's foreign to them, they're going to struggle for the most part. It's inevitable. And if you don't see it on the outside, it will be messed up on the inside because there are a lot of people who don't know who they are. I know a young lady right now who she really had a real messed up upbringing. And because she didn't have a strong connection to her culture, she's now with an individual who is, man, how can I say this, man? I mean, dude is like, I mean, I can be slightly political, can't I? I can say Trump supporter, right? Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, the guy's every essence of what a Trump supporter is. And I'm not saying he don't love the woman, but he don't really love the culture that the woman came from, if that makes sense. And if the sister had a strong connection with her culture and who she is, then a lot of the stuff that he's allowed to say and do, it wouldn't happen. You know, I'm not sitting up here telling somebody that they can't date outside their race. It's not my, hey, if you find love wherever you find love. However, that person needs to love you and where you came from and who you look like too, because you represent a strong culture of people. I mean, my thing is this: you can't sit up here and say, "Oh, I got a black girlfriend," but you're extremely racist. Does that make sense? You know, yeah. I mean, it makes sense for me to say it, but for someone to act like that, it don't make sense. And we got a lot of that out there. We got a lot of people that say Black Lives Matter, but you hate the black lives your black students came from. You know, I don't like that. Are you afraid of the black parents those black lives in your classroom came from? See, Black Lives Matter is trendy. The little organization, yeah, it's a trend, but it really masks what you need to really be focused on. Our black lives do matter. Our black education matters. We're tired of being ignored. So when you walk around talking about what that organization says, you need to do what the organization is not doing. Yeah, that's another topic for another day. Cause shoot, you got me messed up. All right, so black male teachers also demonstrate leadership for black children. It demonstrates leadership for black children. Now, one of my favorite stories to tell my students is the story of Apollo and his son, and how Apollo's son drove the sun chariot and almost destroyed the world because he didn't know what he was doing, because he didn't have that guidance. In the classroom, black male teachers are just like that. You know, we are the Apollo in that classroom. And the actual room itself is our proverbial sun chariot. And every day, students will see us make the sun rise and set for them daily. That is power in what we do. Yes, I used a metaphor to compare teaching to the rising and setting of the sun. Both of them are extremely powerful. And when kids see a black male controlling that can open up so many doors for them. When they see a Coach Fletcher or a Coach Harrison or a Coach Gethers on the field, on the court, on the track, it opens up so many doors for them. When they see a Mr. Lewis Neal being a principal over a school, it opens up so many doors for them. You know, that leadership is an amazing thing. It's like, wow, this man is leading an educational process. And if you spin it right, I mean, you might make more in your classroom as well, too. I mean, like, having us in those positions opens up so many doors for these kids to see so much education, to see so much power. I mean, when I grew up, I had black teachers. I had black principals. I had black board presidents, and I had black superintendents all throughout my tenure going through school. See, our kids don't have that now, and that's sad. I remember actually meeting the superintendent that was a superintendent when I was in school. My first year teaching, he said, yeah, I was a superintendent when you was in school. And I mean, it was like an amazing thing. It's kind of like a torch passing thing. Now, no, I don't see myself being a superintendent. I mean, I wouldn't rule it out, but I mean, it's a beautiful, but like seeing someone who was like over a whole district when I was a kid, who's now saying, hey man, welcome to the profession. Man, that's like shoot, you know, meeting Black Panther, you know, like, wow, man, look, you know, meeting your hero. Let's see what else we have here. Black male teachers also provide an opportunity for black men to engage black children in constructive, thought-provoking, and empowering conversations. There's a book that I teach, To Kill a Mockingbird. And it's one thing to read and be taught To Kill a Mockingbird from a white female teacher. But it's another thing to read To Kill a Mockingbird and be taught that perspective from a black male teacher, especially with so many parallels with Tom Robinson. I mean, we have so many Socratic seminars about issues. It's amazing. And like, I have white students chime in and say, man, I learned so much from that conversation. I was able to give input on this topic as well, too. You know, this black man made me feel comfortable speaking about these issues in class. See, we create the true safe space for kids. Yeah, I'm a black man teaching English in a predominantly white school district. Predominantly white ran school district. I mean, we have conversations in that classroom. And the kids are like, dude, man, Mr. Gethers, thank you for opening up this door for us. I mean, like, in my opinion, black men are not respected in education as we should be. And when kids hear you talk about these strong issues, you can come at them from a level that they can relate to. Because kids aren't listened to in schools, black male teachers aren't listened to in school. Put it together, you got a voice. So, with saying that, some of the deepest conversations I've had in class have been with my students. Some of the deepest conversations I had, period, have been with my students. And I just think it's an awesome thing. I'm going to kind of rush through the rest because, Father Time is not on my side today. Let's see. Teaching black male teachers also provide an opportunity for black men to fill voids in the lives of so many black children. Now, we have a lot of kids who don't have present role models or present parents in the class, at home. Black male teachers can be a father figure to a lot of kids. We can give that paternal aspect of who we are and what we can and can't, and what students should be learning outside of the curriculum. We can give that guidance, that mentorship. I had some students who, they did something silly. Kids do that. They got popped for theft, and they got arrested, and they asked me to write a letter to a judge. And I did that. And me writing that letter on their behalf got them off the hook, because I came at the judge saying, hey, look, not only am I these kids' teacher, but they're like my kids as well. And I actually spoke on behalf of those kids as if they were actually my own sons. And that's how you got to approach it, because when those kids got in trouble, I didn't see them as my students. I saw them as my actual children as well, too. And those boys came to me and said, look, man, Mr. Gates, thank you for that. And their parents were very grateful, too. All I wanted in return was to not do it again. And they didn't do it again. They kept pushing. And I looked at them in high school, and I saw both of the boys was playing high school sports, and they was, doing the right thing. And it's a beautiful thing to be able to do that for a student. It is. All right. Black male teachers also provide an opportunity for black men to be an alternative to the negative and destructive black male images that so many black male children often see portrayed in media, BET, for an example, and some cases in their own communities. Well, let's be real. Being a black man, we are vilified a lot. And we are vilified a lot by individuals in our own culture. How many times have black kids been told that their black father wasn't, sugar honey iced tea, told to their face? How many times have kids been told that most of the crime is committed by black males? How many negative things are out there? How many times have you heard the N-word being synonymous with black male? See, black male teachers break all of that. We put all that stuff to shame. We shatter all those stereotypes. We do. Because we show students that all that garbage that was given to you about what your image is false. We are paramount to any garbage and any stereotypical nonsense that is put into the minds of our students. So we're saying that we are we are trailblazers when it comes to things. There are so many trails that were blazed by black males that you can still physically and mentally and metaphorically see them. So with being a black male teacher in a classroom, we are showing kids that all the negative things that's been put in front of you, I'm showing you that it's been told a lie. The truth needs no clothes. I'm standing in front of you right now showing you that everything that's been said is a lie, and that I am passing the torch on to you to continue to do greater than what I'm doing. Let's see. I'm finding a good one. Teaching also provides an opportunity for black men to have a bird's eye view on the current problems and issues and concerns that exist within schools of black children. Like I said, we have our enemies teaching our kids. So with us being in the school system, we're actually seeing the problems that our kids are facing. I can actually see the inequitable setting that our kids are in, and it's my job to make sure that they're right, that they're made right. We are infiltrating and breaking up the status quo. We are seeing everything that our kids are going through, and we actually can go back and tell our communities, look, I'm actually in the schools and I'm seeing the low quality meals. I'm seeing the ineffective teaching. I'm seeing the dilapidated buildings. I'm seeing all of that. So what can we do, community, to fix this? Now, I'm all about taking the village to raise a child, to bring up a child. Not only am I utilizing my schema and also my intellect to teach our students, I'm also using my community as well, too. I bring in community voices, community resources, community members to assist our children, because I know that all of our schools do not fully benefit our students. So I bring in as many people as possible to assist our kids. When I say our kids, not necessarily just black kids, but all children, because it's not just black kids that are suffering, it's also our kids too. But I mean, of course, I'm going to see what's going on with black students first because of who I am and where I came from too. And plus, and for the most part, you see a lot of black kids being lit up in this school setting. I'm going to say this, and Mr. Walker, I hope you're listening to this. I had teachers tell me in one school I taught in that a kid was called the N-word by an administrator. Now, of course, the teacher said, well, we didn't say anything because the administrator was black too. I don't care if the administrator was purple, had with orange, purple, polka dots. The fact that this administrator was allowed to call this kid the N-word and it was not addressed, that's the stuff I'm talking about. Because we don't need that. And this was recent. We don't need that in our schools. And if you want to know who that person was, please comment and I will expose it. I will expose it. Because, and also I will expose the teachers who, see, we got a bad habit. Like, white teachers, it's okay to tell kids to stop using the N-word. It's fine. Because because you keeping your mouth shut when kids say that word, you're making it permissible. And you're also letting kids know that's who they are. And it's okay to address each other as that. No. Because kids can't use that word in professional settings. I can't walk up to Mr. Fletcher and call him that word, nor can he call me that word, and nor can we call Coach Harrison that word. No. So stop telling kids, or stop unconsciously telling kids it's okay to say it. Because when you do that, you're adding more to the institutionalized racism. I see it. Okay, and in closing, black male teachers provide an opportunity for black men to make a difference in the community of the children that they teach. Now, we make a difference. The more you see us in a classroom, the more you see us out there being a representation of our students, the more it is a positive reflection on our community. Yes, we are more than just athletes and rappers. We are extreme intellectuals. We are fathers. We are educators. We are everything that they're saying that we're not. And when you put black male teachers in the classroom, you actually see that. So my challenge to our school organizations out here that are watching, our principals, our board presidents, our superintendents, it's one thing to say you want more black male teachers, but it's another thing to actually employ more black male teachers. And when you employ black male teachers, not only keep them as teachers, retain them as teachers, but also put in programs to elevate them to where they can do more. Because, as Cornell Ellis always says, representation matters. And if you are a black male teacher and you're needing the mentorship or the guidance or a partnership or fellowship, hit up the block. You can find him on Facebook, and also hit up Cornell Ellis too. He's the founder and president of that. So we need more brothers out there in the classrooms. In the Inkwell, education overflows like ink. And like ink, it stains. But it stains permanent. See you next week.